Get out of this house! Get out of this house! This is my family's legacy.
I pulled into my driveway at 11 p.m., the engine of my old Ford pickup still rumbling from the grueling 600-mile haul back from Denver. My bones ached from the long hours behind the wheel, and all I craved was a cold beer on the weathered dock my grandfather had hammered together decades ago, staring out at the glassy surface of Pine Ridge Lake under a blanket of Montana stars. The cabin was my haven, a place where the world slowed down, and worries faded with the mist rising off the water at dawn. But as my headlights swept the property, they caught the harsh flicker of red and blue lights, police cruisers blocking the path like some bad dream. My heart skipped a beat. What in God's name was going on? I stepped out, keys in hand, only to be met by two officers with hands hovering near their holsters. "Sir, step away from the vehicle. You're trespassing on private property," one barked. "Trespassing? On my own land." That's when Eleanor Whitaker emerged from the shadows behind the squad car, her face twisted in that triumphant smirk I'd come to loathe, the kind that said she held all the cards. Her friend, some blonde stranger, peered out from my kitchen window, casually brewing coffee as if she'd lived there for years. Little did I know, this surreal standoff was just the opening act in a twisted saga of greed, betrayal, and a fight for everything my family had built. It would test my resolve like nothing else, forcing me to confront not just nosy neighbors, but a web of criminals who saw my simple life as an easy mark. My name is John Harlan, 52 years old, a construction foreman who spent the better part of 3 decades swinging hammers and pouring concrete across the Rockies. I'm no stranger to hard work, divorced for 10 years now, with 2 grown kids scattered to the winds, my son in Seattle chasing tech dreams, my daughter Laura finishing law school in Billings. Life's been straightforward: build during the week, unwind on weekends at the cabin I inherited 3 years back. That place, pure gold. 2 acres of prime lakefront in Pine Ridge, Montana, handed down from my grandfather Harlan, who pieced it together in 1987 with sheer willpower, a beat-up Chevy truck, and a measly $47 scraped from his savings. Grandfather Harlan was a tough old bird, survived the Great Depression as a kid, stormed beaches in Korea, then laid miles of railroad track through blizzards and heat waves. When he retired, he claimed this slice of paradise, felling trees himself for the logs, nailing every board with calloused hands that told stories of a lifetime's labor. For me, it was more than property, it was legacy. I'd sip coffee on his dock at sunrise, watching bald eagles dive for trout, the mist curling like smoke from a campfire. This was my retirement blueprint: grind until 60, then fade into quiet days by the water, far from the chaos of city job sites. But peace shattered in 2019 when Lakewood Vista Estates crashed the party like an uninvited storm. It started innocently enough, first, so it seemed. A slick developer from California swooped in, gobbling up the adjacent farmland that had been peaceful pasture for generations. Overnight, bulldozers roared, and up went 47 cookie-cutter mansions, each one a bloated testament to excess. 3-car garages for luxury SUVs, infinity pools spilling into manicured lawns, home theaters blasting noise across the lake. The air that once carried the clean scent of pine from my grandfather's trees now reeked of chlorine and fresh asphalt. The newcomers were a different breed: tech executives, retirees with fat portfolios, folks who'd never known the sting of a 12-hour shift in the rain. And leading the charge was Eleanor Whitaker, 65, a retired bank manager who'd traded her high-rise office for lakeside serenity at the bargain price of $850,000. She drove that white Tesla like a badge of honor, clad in designer yoga pants, even for a quick run to the general store. Eleanor wasn't content to live and let live. She craved control. Elected HOA president in a landslide, mostly because no one else wanted the headache, she turned the neighborhood association into her personal fiefdom. Her first edict? A formal demand that I dismantle grandfather Harlan's dock, claiming it disrupted the community's aesthetic viewshed. I remember standing on those sun-bleached planks, the lake lapping gently below, and staring her down. "Ma'am," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the boil in my gut, This dock was standing proud when your fancy houses were nothing but cow pies and wild grass. Her face pinched like she'd swallowed a lemon, and she huffed. Well, the HOA maintains standards, Mr. Harlan. We'll see about that. My lawyer, a no-nonsense local named Bill, fired back with legalese about riparian rights and grandfathered structures. Eleanor backed off for a spell, but I could see the wheels turning. She started with petty jabs, anonymous complaints to the county about my unpermitted outbuildings, which were older than half the codes on the books. Then came the noise reports, get this, about songbirds chirping too loudly near her meditation sessions. I kid you not. The woman had time on her hands and spite in her heart. The trouble simmered until 3 months ago, when it boiled over into something darker. I'd been pulling extra shifts on out-of-town sites, Bozeman 1 week, Missoula the next, chasing overtime to cover my daughter's tuition and some lingering medical bills from my ex-wife Linda's cancer fight years back. She passed too young, leaving a hole that never quite mends. During those absences, odd things cropped up. Lights glowing in my cabin windows at odd hours, my mail mysteriously forwarded to an unknown address, even my garden hose left running day and night, siphoning water that I later traced to filling the hot tub at Eleanor's place next door. I rigged up a discreet security camera in a birdhouse, nothing fancy, just enough to catch motion, and what it recorded made my blood run hot. There she was, Sophia Lang, a sharp-dressed blonde in her mid-30s, slipping through my front door with a set of keys she had no business possessing. She strutted in like she owned the joint, unloading groceries and setting up shop. Sophia billed herself as a lifestyle consultant from San Francisco, all glossy business cards and wellness jargon. Eleanor claimed she was house-sitting, but Eleanor hadn't gone anywhere. No, this was bolder. Sophia was turning my grandfather's sanctuary into her side hustle, advertising authentic lakefront retreats online for $200 a pop on weekends. Tourists flocked in, doing yoga on my dock at dawn, roasting marshmallows over my fire pit, even picking veggies from my garden for farm-to-table dinners. The audacity hit like a punch. But the real knife twist? She treated Grandfather Harlan's hand-carved fishing lures, those smooth wooden treasures he'd whittled during long Montana winters, each one etched with memories of his stories, mere props, scattering them on the coffee table for her Instagram photos. Those lures weren't decorations. They were pieces of him, of us. I should have dropped everything when the county assessor called about property transfer paperwork filed in my name, forged, of course, by Whitaker's crew. But a big Denver contract beckoned. 3 weeks solid, $18,000 that could clear debts and secure my future. I upgraded the cameras to cloud storage, asked my neighbor Walter, a grizzled rancher in his 70s who'd known Grandfather Harlan, to keep an eye out, and hit the road. Biggest regret of my life. In Eleanor's warped reality, my honest work equated to abandonment, giving her and Sophia carte blanche to claim squatters' rights. Flashback to that fateful night in the driveway, police lights casting eerie shadows on the pine trees. Officer Ramirez, young and by the book, ran my ID through the system, while his partner, Officer Benetta, veteran with the weary eyes of someone who'd refereed too many domestic spats, pored over my deed and tax stubs. Eleanor ranted about HOA authority and community liability, but Bennett wasn't buying it. "Ma'am," he said, his voice cutting like gravel, "you've got no jurisdiction over private land outside your development. And squatters' rights here require 5 continuous years, not a couple weeks." Eleanor's face crumpled, but Sophia stole the show, bursting from the cabin in luxurious silk pajamas that screamed high-end catalog, cradling Linda's favorite coffee mug, the blue ceramic one with the chip from a clumsy morning years ago. Tears streamed down her face, professional as a soap star. "Officers, thank God you're here. This man's been harassing me for weeks while I've been legally tending this abandoned property." She whipped out paperwork, a lease with my signature faked, so convincingly it must have come from pros. The lavender scent of her perfume clashed with the cabin's cedar warmth, twisting my stomach in knots. I kept my cool, pulling up the phone app with steady hands. "Check this," I said, playing the 4K footage. Sophia picking the lock 3 days after my Denver departure, clear as day. Her tan paled to ghost white. Eleanor thrust a folder of complaints noise from my unsightly vegetable patch, alleged threats I'd made, twisting my warning to back off my land into something sinister. But Bennett spotted the flaw, the lease on Eleanor's letterhead. "You her landlord?" he asked pointedly. Stammers followed, and the jig was up. Sophia got 2 hours to vacate. Ramirez escorted her. Eleanor slunk away muttering, "This isn't finished." As the cruisers pulled out, I caught their whispers by the fence, "Plan B, move fast." Victory tasted bitter, laced with dread. The business card wedged in my doorframe confirmed it. Sophia Lang, property acquisition specialist, touting adverse possession successes in 47 states, consultations at $500 an hour. This wasn't amateur, it was calculated theft. Quick checks revealed the damage. Spare keys gone, property surveys vanished, grandfather's tackle box rifled, SD cards surgically removed from cameras. Worst, utility bills rerouted to her name, backdated 4 months, fraud crossing state lines, ripe for federal eyes. At 1 a.m., Walter knocked, phone glowing with footage from his window. Eleanor, Sophia, and a sharp-suited man loading boxes into the Tesla, California plates gleaming. "John," Walter growled, his face etched with worry, "this ain't random. It's a damn operation." Dawn brought more horrors. The shed? Transformed into a spa parlor with essential oils, dim lights, and a sacred healing space sign. Online reviews gushed over 6 weeks of $300 nightly retreats, yoga on the dock, meditation by the fire pit, organic meals from my tomatoes. The electric spike? Crypto rigs humming in the basement, guzzling power like a small factory enough to flag as interstate fraud. Water bills tripled from her cleansing ceremonies, basically glorified baths. Eleanor countered with a barrage, 47 complaints to code enforcement, health department tips about unsanitary threats to the lake, using Sophia's messes against me. Even calls to my boss labeling me unreliable amid disputes. My livelihood teetered. Digging into Sophia's past chilled me deeper. Real name, Rebecca Vance, a serial scammer with hits in Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, always lone men, valuable rural spots, bleeding them dry through endless suits. She partnered with locals like Eleanor for cover. The suit? Reginald Hayes, a California attorney whose site read like a theft manual. Adverse possession consulting. Testimonials on snagging $2.3 million Tahoe cabins for peanuts. One review. Reginald turned a stubborn holdout into my dream property for $50K in fees. Pros, through and through. Behind my bathroom mirror, stash docs. An appraisal by Eleanor's husband's shell company, pegging my land at $1.8 million for HOA expansion notes on acquiring adjacent parcel dated months before I knew trouble brewed. Counterattack time. I installed pro security, cloud backups, reinforced locks, sensors on the dock and shed. Bill, my attorney, affirmed my title 30 years ownership, taxes paid religiously. But fighting would cost, federal help needed. Community stepped up unexpectedly. Walter rallied old-timers. Margaret at the hardware store donated copying and meeting space. Old Tom, the retired forest ranger, offered research chops. Even the town barber shared whispers of similar scams in nearby counties. Their support felt like a lifeline in a storm. Eleanor's threats escalated. A late-night call. "John, you're complicating things. Take our settlement before lawyers bankrupt you." She named vulnerabilities: Linda's old debts, Laura's loans, hints at blackballing my construction gigs. I recorded every word. Montana law allowed it. Bureaucracy peaked with a county hearing notice, 47 violations, demanding docs and potentially $75,000 in fees. Classic tactic drowned the little guy in paper. The hearing room reeked of stale coffee and tension, like a low-budget courtroom drama. Hayes commanded a legal phalanx. PowerPoint sliding through community impacts, prepped for months. Fake witnesses, neighbors I'd never met swore I'd threatened violence. Rebecca, Sophia, hammed it up as victim. Fake medicals claiming PTSD from our confrontation, demanding $25,000 while dabbing eyes with pricey tissues. Photos of damaged property. Items she'd swiped from me. Hayes' genius twist, pinning her crime as crypto, retreats, Masa me as unlicensed operations. Owners liable for tenants, even unwitting? Insane reversal. Invade, joint, blame the host. My arsenal fired back. Timestamps. Footage of her break-in. Eleanor's recorded threats. Utility fraud proof. A conspiracy timeline like a thriller plot. The hearing officer's face hardened. This screamed crime, not admin. Halting for law enforcement, he declared. Hayes panicked, dropping his ace. Fabricated 87 subdivision error, claiming grandfather Harlan built illegally. Land should auction. Sophisticated forgeries months. Tens of thousands to debunk. That evening, Walter's basement morphed into command central. Whiteboards mapping strategies, endless coffee, locals brainstorming. Old Tom unearthed Pete Kowalski, 82, the original surveyor. Over venison jerky echoes of grandfather, Pete confessed. Compass glitch in a 87 blizzard shifted lines 60 feet east. I owned 3.2 acres, including turf under 3 mansions. Eleanor's pool smack on my soil. Poetic justice. FBI agent Lisa Thornton rolled in from Billings, dossier in hand. Hayes syndicate probed for interstate scams, 47 properties, 12 states, $18 million stolen. Rebecca's laptop, spreadsheets targeting 23 spots, mine priority, with $2.1 million potential. Comms with Eleanor back 14 months. She got $75,000 up front. Her hubby filed sham permits for community access. Victim profile. Isolated rural men, financially stretched, unable to battle funded crooks. RICO loomed mail/wire fraud, 20-year minutes. Thornton offered witness protection. I balked. Not leaving Harlan land. Compromise, surveillance, panic button. Arrests cascaded. Rebecca on Nevada warrants. Eleanor's husband for bank fraud. HOA attorneys floated settlements. Laura arrived. Law texts piled high. They picked the wrong family. We filed quiet title to cement ownership. Funds poured in GoFundMe, $67,000. Vets $25,000. Contingency lawyers eager. Montana's color of title law favored Ushanist owners shielded after decades of taxes. Eleanor's smears intensified. Gossip on my instability. Calls to Linda's kin with lies. Fake reviews cratering jobs. Tires/thrice. OSHA floods halting sites. 2 a.m. Alarms blared. Masked trio with gas cans. Intent arson. Footage nailed Hayes goons. Feds swarmed. DNA linking to his firm. Attempted murder elevated it. Witness tampering. Safe house pushed. I held firm with 24/7 guards. Eleanor's HOA rally fundraised against terrorist me, but reporter Janet exposed PR ties to frauds. Indictment dropped. 47 counts. Assets frozen $3.2 million. Pleas snowballed. Eleanor flipped, sobbing on stand about $125,000 payoff. Classist rants on rurals can't fight. Billings trial. Media zoo, divided crowds. My testimony gutted mere living violations. Jury outraged at greed tapes. Guilty all counts. Decades sentenced. I got $2.3 million forfeiture. HOA $850,000 for easements. HOA crumbled. We rebuilt dock with volunteers, planted anew. Festival boomed, 2,000 strong, bluegrass and flags. Harlan's law hit 8 states. Federal act passed. Married Elizabeth, advocate widow. Our center aids victims. Grandson Fish's lures legacy endures. What do you think about the violence and injustice in stories like this? Share your thoughts in the comments. Take a stand on how we handle bullies and crooks in everyday life. Your view could spark real change.